Hello viewers, you join me here with a friend of mine, Olivier Faelens, who happens to be the president of an anti-cult organisation here in Belgium called S.A.S. Welcome to my channel, Olivier.
Thank you.
Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about S.A.S. and what you're doing with the organisation.
Okay, so S.A.S. stands for Study and Advice Group on Cults. You say it's an anti-cult organization.
Right.
Well, yes, it's true in a certain sense that we try to go into the cult dynamics and we try to expose the bad consequences they bring. But at the same time, we try to help people in cults. And so, what we're really interested in is the harmful elements within cults, and we try to help people
to recognise these
elements.
Yes,
indeed.
Yeah. So, because often you hear the word anti and you immediately think negative, but this is a positive work that you're involved in, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. And it's also very important to address or to be able to address people that are within cults. If you start with an anti attitude, it's really difficult to talk with them.
Yeah.
Because the cult, it's their identity. And so you're anti their identity.
Yeah, exactly. You raise barriers, don't you?
Yeah.
I think you attended the Undue Influence conference in London. I think I saw you there. And there Stephen Hassan talks a bit about the strategic approach when it comes to helping victims of cults. And I think what you're saying really resonates with that, because you're talking about, trying to find a way of interacting with people rather than raising up walls.
Yeah. Of course, because we have our ideas of what happens in a cult, things that are wrong or should be different. But the most important thing is that people who are in it, or the family members and friends that are coping with a person that goes into a cult, that they're able to place that experience into their lives and to cope with it. And of course it would be good that the person would go out of the cult and chooses its own way. But the most important thing is that to help the people cope with the experience, and not to say you're doing something bad, get out of it, or things like that.
It does get complicated though when you think of shunning, because with shunning the whole relationship erodes completely, doesn't it? So there isn't really anything to work with if someone's in the cult and shunning there.
But also with the shunning thing, so what we're mostly saying is try to keep a positive relationship and to work on that. And it's very hard, of course, if they're saying you're materialistic, not spiritual, you're bad, you're not in the right way, mentally diseased, whatever. But still, there will come a moment of doubt, and on that moment it's important that there is someone out of the group where they have a positive relationship, so that they can talk about their doubts, or just go to someone out of the cult without saying anything. But if they don't have the relationship, the positive relationship, it's hard it's a threshold, an extra threshold to go out.
Would I be right in saying that your organisation helps with counselling in these situations?
We do. We have a moral counsellor in our group that helps people like that. We have a psychologist.
Right.
Or we have people like Patrick, who are really specialized into groups like the ex-Jehovah's.
And point people in the right direction.
Yes, indeed. To talk with them. So it's two things. It's informing people about the group, their practices, beliefs, and cult dynamics.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, to counsel them, talk with them.
Yeah. Provide some kind of framework for an exit.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, viewers might be interested to know that Olivier isn't actually an ex-JW, but perhaps you could tell us a little bit about your cult background and what brought you to this stage.
Yes, so it all started when I went to a university in Antwerp.
Mm-hmm.
There I encountered one of the assistant professors who was into Anthroposophy, more known as from the Waldorf schools or Steiner schools.
Right.
But so they have several organizations that work on different fields, like many groups, and also a religious organization, and they call themselves mostly the Christian community, but they have different names too, Johannes community, things like that. And so, if I try to describe it, it would be some kind of mixture of New Age, an early form of New Age, where they take all kinds of beliefs like reincarnations, chakras, auras, and unite it with Christian influences. So they believe that Christ is a sort of sun god, and he was also very heavily inspired by Theosophy. So Theosophy of Blavatsky,
right?
Which was also an early form of New Age, trying to take all kinds of elements and put it into a big melting pot.
And this sort of thing spoke to you, did it? You
well, yes, indeed. It was. So I was very interested in philosophy, and this was very magical, but also kind of theoretical. And so the assistant said, "This is a truth, basically, and not many people understand and can see the truth."
Yeah,
and
you're one of the privileged few.
Yes, indeed, and it's also the core of philosophy. So if you're doing a lot of philosophy, then you start to see things in a different way, which was of course my experience, but then this was an extra dimension that came with it. And so that attracted me, and then we had some, we talked a lot about it, me and some other students with the assistant professor. We went to his house, talked about it, started reading the literature about it. In the end we started attending the Sunday masses, and you could really see afterwards I can really see the cultic tendencies, in the sense that the outer world was portrayed as very materialistic, totally unspiritual. It was going the wrong way. There was also some kind of apocalyptic thinking, in the sense that now Ahriman, so it's the devil, you could say, was going to be incarnated or incorporated, and you could see it on the internet, and there were different signs.
Were you asked to avoid the internet, or?
Well, there was bad literature and good literature. Bad thinkers and good thinkers, and depending on what kind of inspiration they had. It was really the inspiration of God or Lucifer or the devil.
So safe to say, if something contradicted what the cult was saying, then it was satanic.
And it went really far, because for example, critical thinking, it was the body of the devil, of Ahriman. So when you were critically thinking, the devil was inside of your head. So of course it's a way of saying you can't critically think, you just have to read
do what we're
Steiner's literature.
So there must have reached some point where the blinkers parted and you were able to see that you were in a cult. What moment? How did that come about?
Well, my girlfriend back then, she experienced that I wasn't really into a clear dialogue about the cultic topics, and I was radicalizing more and more. I even thought of maybe becoming a priest there, or doing some kind of priest education there. And the cult experienced that too, that she was asking questions. So the assistant even said, well, she's inspired by something bad. You should watch out for that. And so he was trying to separate me from my girlfriend.
Right.
And yeah, in the end, she said, well, I can't do this anymore. I can't talk with you. So you'll have to choose. It's me or the group. And so I went with this question to my guru, you could say. And yeah, and I said, well, how is this possible? I love her, and love can be bad. Why should I separate from her? And then there were all kinds of debates, but in the end, the conclusion was that I chose for my relationship, and then I broke up with the people, and yeah. So and that started my search into different kinds of religions and cults from a more broad perspective, also a theoretical perspective. So I went to study also the religious studies, and then I ended up with doing an internship in the Federal Information and Advice Center on Harmful Sectarian Organizations, where I'm now part of the member of the board, and then I met Johan, the previous president of Study and Advice Group on Cults, and where I'm president now of, and then it's really interesting, the work, because I think when you're in a cult, you don't know about the different options. You know theoretically, oh, other people believe other things, but if you really go into it and you start to study it, then you see so many similarities, whether it's the JWs or the Moonies or the Anthroposophists or whatever. A lot of the cult dynamics are the same. Of course, they believe different things, but it's the form is the same. And of course, you have many. You have different things too. For example, the apocalyptic beliefs or the shunning, or it can take different forms.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Jehovah's Witnesses in a second, but I'm just interested when you were describing the situation with your girlfriend prompting your awakening. Would it be safe to say that it wasn't just a sudden eureka moment, I'm in a cult, or was there a more gradual awakening process? Did you go through any period where there were perhaps doubts?
Yes, certainly. It wasn't a total awakening. In contrary, I said to myself, well, I'll try to go away from the group physically and then think on my own. And then there was a period where I had many doubts. I even thought for certain moments, I'm wrong. I shouldn't be doing this because my belief isn't following. I'm just doing this because of something else, because of love. So it was a positive drive.
I'm being selfish.
But I'm being selfish, and maybe the gods or whatever.
Maybe I'm making a mistake.
So
how did you overcome that period?
By taking my time to think and to talk with people and read literature. And it took some time, but
because that's one thing that in fact I've had emails recently where people have expressed that they're still grappling with their doubts even sometime after waking up.
Very normal.
And my advice is always research. You need to remind yourself of the reasons why you're doing this.
It's true.
So I wanted to ask you about Jehovah's Witnesses because you've attended the screening of Truth Be Told in Ghent in Belgium, So what did you think of the film, and what similarities can you identify with your experience?
So I thought it was a good documentary because it portrayed the group and the experiences within the group not in a black and white manner.
Yeah.
People who are in a group aren't simply brainwashed. They have many different motivations, and a lot of the motivations are positive, idealistic.
Yeah.
They want to
Be in paradise.
be in paradise, create a better world also on earth between the people. And, but it's the similarities, I would say, is people that are going out of the cult, it's mainly because of inhuman interactions. It's not because of beliefs that don't that contradict their personal beliefs. It's because they experience bad things, and that makes people think or doubt, and then maybe it opens up the possibility for critical thinking. And I would say, if you look at the reasons why people go into a cult, it's the same for Jehovah's Witnesses as for in other cults. It's not because of rational arguments.
No.
It's because of the social bond that is being formed. You meet people, they're friendly, they're open, they give you a lot of love and friendship.
We call it love bombing.
Yes, love bombing.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why people go in a cult. And so the same social things that go wrong are the reasons that make people go out of the cult.
And you maybe learn things when you're first, being acquainted with the cult that don't make any sense whatsoever, but you're able to excuse them because you think, well, they're such nice people. I've had such a positive experience.
You rationalize it, or
so one kind of compensates for the other, and whether it's true or not eventually becomes irrelevant. It's all about the experience. So.
And that's also the reason when people go out of the cult, depending on what you experience, but a lot of the people can give it a good place, can integrate it in their lives, because it wasn't all bad. They had some good relationships or insights or good things happened. And I think it's also very important to understand that when you go out, it wasn't one black hole. Of course, it's different in the beginning. When you go out, you're frustrated.
You mean it wasn't a total write-off, the time that you spent in the cult?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's how you feel about your experience?
That's how I feel it. And
because it's made you a better person, or made you able to help people?
Well, yes, it made me able to help people, and I got a lot of insight into cult dynamics, which aren't just a fringe thing in society. I mean, from a social perspective it is, but I think what happens there, it's also going into the core of what it means to have beliefs and social ties, and I think it's a sort of radical thing what happens there, which also happens in families and friend relationships and things like that.
I see what you mean, but I suppose for me personally, it's a case of weighing up the pros and the cons, because yes, you have this experience that gives you the ability to help people. Like, I look back on my time as a witness, and I can honestly say that if I went back in time and had an opportunity to talk to myself, I'm not entirely sure I would want to convince myself to wake up, because the experience that I had has put me in a position where I can perhaps help other people wake up. And if I'd have woken up sooner, maybe I wouldn't have been able to do that. So from that point of view, I know exactly where you're coming from. But from the other point of view, say someone spends decades and decades and decades in the cult, and I can understand why they would feel, well, I've wasted my entire life in this cult.
Mhm.
Or perhaps if they lose someone because
course,
they've refused a
of
blood
course.
transfusion. So it's kind of a,
It really depends on what you experience.
yeah, what your experience was, yeah.
That's true.
And at least in our case, we've been able to say, well, yes, our experience was perhaps negative, but we're hopefully building something positive from it. And there's the potential for other people to do the same thing if they put their minds to it.
Yes, yes, and it's important that when you're trying to help people coming out of a cult, you can't say they have to integrate it in a positive way.
Mm.
Everyone has their own experience.
Mm.
Let people try and look at it in their own way. Let them critically think and
Yeah.
think in their own way. It's,
Yeah, that's one thing I say to people is that there's no rush.
yeah,
You know, time is on your side. You can plan your exit strategy in the way that suits
Yeah.
you.
yeah.
Well, this has been very interesting. I really do appreciate you sharing your experience with us, and excellent. Good luck with SAS.
Okay.
And I know you've got other ventures as well that you're doing with various projects. So I wish you well with that. And
Thank you.
okay, take care.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.